broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And apologies for the delay on this, I've been quite busy recently, so apologies. This is coming out on Tuesday the 9th of March, and with the schedule this season, these podcasts have to come out as frequently as possible, and I just have been busy, so apologies for that. But there's a lot to talk about in this game. A 1-1 draw obviously doesn't sound like one that has a lot of talking points. However, though, this game produced a lot of talking points. There was a lot of VAR, shenanigans. We also played quite well and had some chances, and we were probably a bit unlucky not to win the game. But we'll get into that eventually. But let's start where we always start with, and the team lineup. So Leno started in goal. Chambers was at right back, which was the big selection change. I think Arteta must have looked at Man City and playing Laporte at left back and thought this is probably the way to go, which is completely fine. I'm totally okay with that, but it was a surprise to see Chambers at right back. Louise and Mari at centre back, so Mari got another game. Tierney at left back. Partey and Xhaka in midfield, so Partey starting for the first time in a while. And then the front four was Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Willian, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So I was pleasantly happy with the lineup. I think the only change I would have made was Pepe for Willian. I understand why Willian got the nod, because obviously Arteta wants him to work. But I would have gone with Nicolas Pepe because Nicolas Pepe has been great. And we'll talk about it later about how he came on and really changed the game as well. We obviously talked about it last week about how a few games recently we've been giving away goals. We've been making mistakes very early. But it was the opposite in this game. Arsenal started the game very brightly and had a very early goal, which was great to have, really. So it was really nicely worked out from the back. Partey receives the ball and he plays a great pass through the centre to Willian, who drives forward. He does very well. Passes to Aubameyang. Aubameyang dribbles off that left, as classically he does. And very similar to the goal against Leeds, the first goal against Leeds, he aims for the near post rather than the far and catches Nick Pope napping basically and squeezing it into the near corner. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want your keeper to do that mistake. I think it's a bit harsh to say it's a mistake because I think it's just smart play by Aubameyang. But he does do well there, and it's another goal for Aubameyang. He loves playing against Burnley. I think he's got a lot of goals against Burnley, and he's been in really good form recently, which has obviously coincided with him playing up front and also with him having added creativity behind him. Obviously, Odegaard started this game, but he's had Smith Rowe as well. So it's really encouraging to have our captain scoring goals. Now he's on 84 goals for Arsenal, so only 16 off that big 100. So that's really encouraging for him and really encouraging for us because he will be in history books, basically. But it was a really good start. And after this, we basically controlled the game. It looked like we were a class above Burnley and they just couldn't really handle us. We were playing out the back really well and we were creating chances very well. Aubameyang could have had a second. He hits it wide. Saka had a really gilt-edged chance where he gets played by Chambers to Saka, who plays a 1-2 with Aubameyang. It sort of gets deflected back to him, but he probably had time to hit it with his left into the corner, but he hits it with his right and it goes wide. which was a shame because it sort of felt like the Wolves game where we were producing a really good performance, but we just didn't get that second goal, and you were afraid that it was going to come back to bite us. And that's exactly what happened. So to explain this goal and what happened, I was absolutely shocked when I saw it. We obviously have been coached to play it out the back, and that's something I will never fault the team because it is a very modern approach. It is something that we should be trying, should be doing. And when we do it well, like we did for the first goal, it is beautiful. It's really well done and we can open up teams very well. But when it's done badly, you look very bad. I think there was another example of this with Socrates against Watford last season under Unai Emery, where he was playing out from the back and he just played it straight to a Watford player and it went in. But Xhaka is the person here. I think I said it last podcast that I've been praising him and saying he's been doing really well, so he's bound to make a mistake now, and he does. And this is what Xhaka's going to do. So obviously he receives the ball from Leno, he takes too long on the ball, and then hits it straight against Chris Wood, and it goes in. It's an embarrassing goal to concede. It's another Arsenal mistake. And for a team that's really playing on the fine margins this season, conceding a goal like that was really, really annoying. It's also part of Xhaka's personality and his DNA, really. He will have 10 great games where he's fantastic or good, where he looks like a really competent player, but then you get these mistakes that cost us goals. David Luiz is the same in that instance. So it is annoying that he's produced a really big mistake, one where we were in a period of dominance and it allowed Burnley back into the game. It was just before half-time, so we go into the half-time break now with less momentum than we had. And I think we struggled to start the second half as well as we did the first half. I think it took us a bit of time. The substitutions didn't help as well. So we took out Martin Odegaard and we brought on Lacazette. Now, on the one hand, the tactic of bring all the strikers on is a classic Wenger tactic. And usually it works because I think with substitutions and attacking football, you just want to create chaos. But I think it was the wrong player who went off here. I think Odegaard should have stayed on. He was our only creator on the pitch. I don't know why Lacazette came on and started playing number 10. It sort of seemed like we were playing 4-4-2, but sort of not. I don't know why Willian wasn't the man who subbed off, or Saka as well, because he was on a yellow and he sort of hadn't had a good game. But I understand why keeping Saka on was important, because Saka is always likely to pop up with that goal. But that change actively hurt us, and it wasn't until the next change that things started picking up again. So Nicolas Pepe came on for Willian, and I must say as well, Burnley brought on Eric Peters and Robbie Brady, and it was the former who was involved in probably the most controversial decisions of the whole game. So Pepe's dribbling down the right, he looked dangerous. He hits it against the arm of Peters, he appeals for the handball, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be handball. He then grabs the ball again, tries to dribble past him, and Eric Peters basically blocks him with his arm. And no penalty is given. VAR looked at that and decided it wasn't a penalty. I am sorry, but that is absolutely the wrong decision. That should have been a penalty every day of the week. It was a stonewall penalty. Now, I've seen some people say It was the proximity. He's right next to Pepe. He can't move his hand out of the way. Fine. But he's blocking him. If Pepe doesn't hit the ball against his arm, he's probably knocking him over. It's impeding him from progressing the ball. That should be a penalty. He's impeding him progressing the ball, dribbling past him with his arm, with his hand. That should be handball. It should have been a penalty. There's no doubt in my mind that it should have been a penalty. And I've seen other referees, I think a couple others said it should have been a penalty. I mean, when Peter Walton, who has obviously backed up a lot of VAR decisions on BT Sport, he backed up the David Luiz foul, in inverted commas, against Wolves. When you have Peter Walton saying it was an odd one and it should have been a penalty, then you know that something's gone wrong. It should have been a penalty. But these things happen. We make another change. Danny Spires comes on for Partey. He also made an impact as well. And then another decision happens. So obviously, Pepe's come on at this point. He then smacks a chance on the bar, but the referee gives a penalty for handball. Now, replay showed that it wasn't a handball. It came off Eric Peters once again, off his shoulder this time. It shouldn't have been handball. Rightly overturned. That's fair enough. But when you have what happened to us before, and then we've obviously smacked the bar here, it's not good and it's really annoying. And the game ended quite well for us. We ended very, very well. And even in the last few minutes, Danny Ceballos hit the post, and I think he was unlucky as well as Pepe was when he hit the bar. I also have to mention the chance where Pepe mishit it from a cutback from Tierney, and it looks like a very easy, classic Pepe chance that he was going to finish. He didn't in this instance. He mishit it. Again, if you guys can remember as far back, it reminded me of a chance very similar against Sheffield United away last season, again under Unai Emery, where the ball got crossed off. It got crossed off after a counter-attack, and Pepe had the ball basically in the same position and mishit it as well. I think Pepe's control can sort of be... There's a lot to be desired there. I don't think it's 100% the best, but he always has the X factor. He always makes things happen. And his cameo here vindicates that he should have started instead of Willian. He's been great on the left, and I don't know why Willian started instead of him here. But the game finishes 1-1. We were incredibly unlucky. I mean, the XG for this game was Burnley 1.07 to Arsenal's 2.89. We should have won this game. We should have won by 2-3 goals. It was a disappointing result. I was very frustrated afterwards. I'm sure a lot of you guys were very frustrated afterwards as well. But I think the reaction after the game was a bit overblown. I think people were blaming the manager. I don't know how much the manager can do about a VAR decision going wrong for us, a Pepe shot that hits the bar, Saka missing his chance in the first half, Ceballos hitting the post. This was a game we should have won. 9 times out of 10, we should have won this game. And I know it's frustrating because we are 10th. We have lost these games this season. From my point of view, since Christmas, we have been much better. The season started badly. We started badly. It nearly cost the manager his job. That is the reason why we are 10th. The reason is not because that run after Christmas. And these games will happen, unfortunately. Arsenal will not win every single game ever. I'd like us to win every single game ever, but that just doesn't seem realistic. But you are looking for good trends and good things that we do that we can take forward and hopefully expand on next season. We now have creativity. We are now creating more chances. We now look able to score more goals. We look more coherent. There's a system in place. We can take parts out of it and put other parts in, and the system doesn't get affected. You can take Bukayo Saka out like you did last weekend against Leicester and put Nicolas Pepe in, and the performance will still be good. That's what you want for a team. You want attacking talent to be able to be rotated and to keep up a really good level of performance. You also want the ability to be able to create chances. And earlier in the season, we just weren't doing that. Now we are. And I'm pleased to see that. And I'm disappointed because, again, this was a game that we should have won. This was a game that 9 times out of 10 we would have won, but we didn't. And that's obviously a shame. It's still frustrating while I speak to you now, but that's football, and sometimes it's going to happen. As long as the performances are like this and continue to be like this, we will win more games than draw or lose. And that's the most encouraging thing that I can say about this team. I also saw people saying that this game didn't really matter as much as the Olympiacos game because obviously that's what we're really fighting for now. I understand that. I'm still hoping we can go on a run and maybe get 7th or 8th. But I think every week that goes by, it seems less and less likely that we're going to do that. I think as long as we see encouraging signs between now and the end of the season, I'm happy, and hopefully we can start next season much better than we started this one. I can see us being better. I can see this team being better. And that's what you want. And the numbers back it up. The team is nowhere we want to be, but eventually the numbers will hopefully back us up and we will continue to be going upwards. But obviously we've got a big game against Olympiacos. There's so many narratives that I explained before when I talked about Olympiacos in the draw video. And this is going to be a very big game for us. It's away. We're back in Athens. I mean, you can say it's home because after what happened. But we're in Athens. Hopefully we can get a couple of goals, get some away goals before the derby this weekend. And obviously that's big. Obviously, it's really annoying that they've started to grab form now. You've got Gareth Bale scoring now, which is really annoying. He's remembered how to play football again. But hopefully he can take a week hiatus from that and we can beat him next weekend. But it's a big week for us, and hopefully we can just continue our good performances. Hopefully we are not naive in our game plan, and hopefully we can get the results that we need. So anyway, let's get on to listener questions. It was a frustrating result and I was annoyed by it. One of the comments was from @WolfLexus and he says no positives. That's fine. I think there were positives, but that's what different people think. But the first question is from @FelixFleming4. So thanks for your question. And he asks, Full Chambers had a good game. Would probably go Cedric for Thursday, but thoughts on the right back situation with links to Lamperty recently. So I thought Chambers had a good game, if not an unspectacular game. He was obviously chosen because of his height. It was nice to see that he still exists at the club. It was also nice to see him be brought in and give Cedric and Bellerin a real rest. I think on Thursday, I think Cedric will probably be the one that comes in. I think that's fair because I think he's deserved it. It also matters who he's playing with because I think Bellerin and Saka have a decent understanding between them. But I also think Pepe and Cedric have a great understanding with each other as well. So it will be good to see who can do what and where they can go. So I will start Cedric on Thursday. In terms of the Lamperty links, I think he's obviously a great wing back. He's obviously come from the Chelsea Academy, so he has a bit of experience at a big club. He played one time for the Chelsea first team, and I thought he was brilliant against Saka in that game against Arsenal. I think he's been great for Brighton this season. He will cost a bit of money now because he's just extended a contract. My only thing with him is height, and I'm not sure how he would play that midfield hybrid role that Arteta clearly likes his right backs to do. He's obviously a fantastic attacking fullback, but again, defensively, I'm not sure how well he will be in a 4. He's a great wing back in a 3 at the back. So it will be interesting. I'm glad we're linked with right backs. Again, it's not my priority. I still would find a creator, especially if Odegaard doesn't come back or doesn't get signed. That's my priority because you don't want to rely on Smith Rowe all season. But I'm glad that right back is one of our options. We've been linked with Hakimi as well, who's a fantastic wing back as well. But again, I'm not sure how he can play the right back in central midfield role that Arteta likes. But I think it's clear that Bellerin's probably going to be replaced. I think Cedric will stay. I think that's smart. Upgrading in that area is probably a smart thing to do. And probably getting a fullback that can play both wings is probably great as well. So it'll be interesting to see what we do in the summer in that position. Lamperty is a great player, but he wouldn't be my first choice. I think Hakimi would be my first choice personally. But thanks for your question, Felix. And last question from regular contributor at Titanori. And they ask, your thoughts on the lineup today, also considering the EL game on Thursday. So I thought the lineup was fine. Obviously, we've had a week's rest between Leicester and Burnley. We now have a few days rest before we have the Olympiacos game. And then obviously we go Olympiacos, Spurs, Olympiacos, and then it's West Ham. So yeah, it is West Ham away. So it is going to be a busy few weeks. The international breaks after that. So we have a lot of games to go into them. My lineup for Thursday, so Leno in goal, obviously. I'd play Cedric at right back. Probably Luiz and Gabriel. I think Gabriel's missed the last 2 games. I know it's harsh on Mari, but I think rotating the centre-backs is a smart plan. Tierney, obviously, a left-back. The midfield, Partey and Xhaka. I know Xhaka hasn't been the best, and obviously he had a poor game against Burnley. He gave that mistake up, but usually he responds quite well to these things, so I would start him against Olympiacos. And then the front 4, I think, picks itself. Saka on the right, obviously. Odegaard at 10, because I don't think Smith Rowe will make it. Pepe on the left instead of Willian. And Aubameyang going forward up front. And I think that's the best team, really. I think that's the most encouraging team, and I would be encouraged to see that lineup. I think it allows for the 2+2, so basically 2 forwards who are going to be goal scorers, so Pepe and Aubameyang, and then 2 forwards who are more likely creators, Odegaard and Saka. So it is an encouraging thing, and I want to see us do it. Hopefully that's the lineup we go with, but it's obviously hard to predict what Arteta's going to do. But we'll see it on Thursday. But thanks for your question. It's a big game on Thursday, and I'll have a pod afterwards. I will probably try and record the podcast either straight after the Benfica game or very early in the morning Friday. So whichever way, I'm not 100% sure yet, but there will be a podcast after the Olympiacos game. So hopefully we go into the game and get a really good lead and really good away goals. But until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and De Hui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do?